Hey, do you struggle with how much to charge for your service, particularly if you're new to the game? Let's talk about pricing strategy today here on Service Business Success. Hi everyone and welcome to Service Business Success, the channel that helps you to build a better business. My name's martinjongejan, I'm your host, and today we'll be talking about how to price your service. Knowing how to price your service can be challenging, particularly when you're first starting out. I mean, you don't want to charge too little and give it away, and you don't want to charge too much and scare away potential customers. And there's so many different pricing strategies that are available to choose from. So let's talk about a few of the do's and don'ts around pricing based on my experience with my home cleaning company. And to wrap up, I'll tell you the number one mistake that most new business owners make when they're trying to set their pricing. When I started out, I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know what the going rate was for services like mine. I had no idea of what the true cost of delivering my service was. What I did have was a friend who was in an unrelated service business. He was successful and he told me his pricing strategy was basically to bill out by the hour and just add a few dollars markup for every hour his employees worked. That sounded reasonable to me, and I figured he couldn't be wrong because he had a successful business, right? And so that's what I did. Hey, when you're first starting out and hungry for business, it can be easy to think that you haven't earned the right to charge a market rate. When I started my cleaning company, it was just me and a mop. I'd never cleaned another house before in my life. What right did I have to ask the going rate? I didn't even know what that was, quite frankly, and I didn't feel like I deserved it. And so I thought, what would I be willing to pay for this service per hour? And that became my rate, 25 bucks an hour. That basically covered my labor cost with a small markup, just like my buddy was doing. Well, that strategy got business in the door, but it kept me broke for a long time. For starters, you need to get really clear on what your actual costs are to deliver your service. Your labor costs, payroll burdens such as taxes and employer contributions, insurance, supplies, equipment, travel time, training. I was oblivious to some of the less obvious costs to deliver my service for years. I was totally focused on growing my business and had my eye on the top line revenue, and that cost me a ton of money. Hey, there's no point in getting top dollar if your profit is getting eaten up by costs that you're not even aware of. Getting your costs nailed down will ensure that you're pricing your services to be profitable. Try to determine what your competitors are charging for a similar level of service. And when I say competitors, I'm not recommending you compare yourself to the national brands yet, although this would show you what the market will bear in your industry. Try to find businesses that are around the same size and serve a similar market as yours does. You should be able to determine what a good starting point for your rate is and where you want to position your company comparatively if you have, 3 or 4 competitors to compare with. Once you know your actual costs and roughly what the going market rate is, don't price based upon your cost plus a markup. Cost plus pricing leaves a lot of money on the table, and taking human psychology into account, it doesn't necessarily position your company well. I mean, do you want to be known as a bargain basement provider or as a premium service provider? What you want to do is price your service based on the value that you're providing for your customer, the problem that you're solving for them, how your service makes them feel. Do you know that the average pair of designer sunglasses costs between 15 and 25 bucks a pair to make? And yet people are willing to pay $300 to $400 for a pair to walk around with a label on their face. Why is that? It's because of the perceived value. People aren't buying a piece of metal or plastic and a couple of pieces of glass. They're buying how wearing those on their face makes them feel. Create a great customer experience and price your service based on that experience and how it will make your customer feel. I suggest basing your pricing on the job rather than on an hourly rate. We avoid talking about an hourly rate because it reduces us to a commodity. The moment an hourly rate is brought up, it immediately becomes the basis for comparison with other businesses. People will shop around on price instead of having a thorough understanding of the value that we bring for the rate that we charge. If people ask us outright what our hourly rate is, of course we have to tell them. I typically give them a range and tell them that it varies depending upon the nature of the job that we're doing, which usually satisfies them and prevents us from being pigeonholed. Once you've established your pricing, don't be afraid to raise your price in small increments to find out what the market will bear. I promise you will be astonished at how little impact a rate increase will have if customers feel they're getting good value, and that's key. Back in my dark $25 an hour days, a business coach told me that I needed to raise my rates pronto. So I raised it to 30 and I held my breath, expecting no one to ever want to do business with me again. I was absolutely floored when I discovered that it had zero impact on our closing rate. We've been consistently raising our prices in small increments for new customers ever since, and we have yet to find a ceiling. People continue to buy based on the value they perceive they're getting from our service. You can watch my episode on creating value to see how to make that work for you and your business. Okay, as promised, here's the number one mistake that most new business owners make when trying to price their service. Are you ready? I actually alluded to it a little earlier on in the piece. They price it based on what they think they would be willing to pay for the service themselves. Guys, don't do that. Don't do what I did. Don't ever price based upon what you think you would be willing to pay for your service. Look, one of the fundamental rules of marketing is to never, ever confuse what appeals to you as a consumer with what your customer wants. You know, it's human nature to always compare the worst of ourselves to the best in other people. In business, that looks like us judging our service to be substandard somehow compared to what our customer must be expecting, and judging our competitors to be perfect in every way. That's such a crock. It's a fabrication in your own mind. Don't sell yourself short. Remember, no one else can deliver the service that you do the way that you do it. You are you. And make no mistake, customers are buying you and your glorious personality as much as they're buying the practical side of your service. In that regard, what you're offering is truly unique. And as long as you're providing value, you should price accordingly. Okay, that's a wrap for this week, friends. I hope this helps you price your service appropriately. Be bold. Know your value. Know the worth of what you offer. Customers will embrace you when they feel they're getting value for their money. Hey, if you found the information helpful, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell to get notified when the next video is posted. I'll see you all next week. All the best and much success.